What's up, you awesome humans? Just wanted to welcome you back to episode 83. You guys, in today's episode, I'm talking about the concept of learning to self-regulate and learning to care for ourselves even when life hits us hard or our emotions just seem to control us at times when we're sideswiped by life. So listen, if you're a sensitive person, I just want you to know you're not alone. Join the club. You guys, I know that it's hard for us sensitive ones at times on this planet, but I'm hoping that what we talk about in today's episode will encourage you or help you. Super jazzed about today's episode. And as always, everything I mentioned in the episode, there'll be a link to it in the show notes. Welcome to a Holy Mess podcast. All right, my friends, we all know life can be so difficult and painful at times, especially when we're carrying grief or loss or wrestling with shame about our past, anxiety about our future, or frankly, like we are just not enough. But there has to be so much more for us. There is hope and joy, peace, love, fun, purpose, and a reason that you, my friend, are on this planet. Let's partner with God so you can be who He created you to be as you wrestle through and trudge through your mess. Hi, I'm Danny, a recovering alcoholic, a mom, a wife, a mentor, and dust. We are only here for a moment. Let's live like it. I'm just like you. I'm a holy mess most days. Actually, every day. Let's have some fun and laugh while trudging through our mess. This stuff doesn't need to be dry and boring. Let's dig in. You guys, life is so imperfect. Life is so unpredictable and disappointing at best. How do we live well in the imperfection of it all? How do we live well when things just don't fit? This morning, Jim, my counselor, sent a video out of a car crash on a freeway, and two cars were driving along, and unexpectedly, a truck's tire comes flying off. The front left tire came flying off, and it sends another car that was right next to it into the air. The car flips, and thankfully, there were no major injuries. But this car just tumbled along, and then at the end, the tire comes back and hits the car in the back bumper. And I just thought, you know what? That's just like life. Like, we get hit, we get sideswiped, and then just when we catch our breath, something else whacks us in the back of the head. And Jim's subject line to the email was, "Does your life feel like this some days?" And I just went, oh my gosh, yes. You guys, I feel like my life has been a series of unfortunate events the last several weeks. Nothing huge or earth-shattering, so don't worry about us. But some things have really rattled me to my core. It's also been a magical and amazing time in so many ways too, and I'm absolutely learning to live with both the suffering and sadness and loss and grief in life, and the joy and the peace and the hope. And I'm learning to kind of do the dance in a more healthy way. But I'm having so much fun with our Feel Better Journey groups that we're in the middle of. We're actually jumping into week 5 here. And I feel like it's just been an amazing bonding time to get to know these groups. And I feel like I've made lifelong friendships in these groups. And this last week, we had Jim, my therapist, who has been on the podcast many times, join us in our group meetings. And if you're not familiar, the Feel Better Journey is this group coaching experience. It's a 6 weeks experience where we really dive into concepts where we get to learn to make friends with our past self and make friends with our current self, and then set our future self up for more joy and more hope and more purpose and more peace. And we get to just make peace with our life and learn to live fully in who we are, with no matter what our story is, no matter what we've had to walk through. And so anyways, it's been an incredible season. But Jim was on with the groups this last week, and he was really sharing his heart on and how to find peace and live a really full life, even when the pieces of our life don't fit or may never fit, right? It's like we all have this jigsaw puzzle of life, and we're all missing 3 pieces. And some of us, we've got a mixed bag of a puzzle. We've got 3 puzzles mixed in one. And we're trying to fit these pieces together. And, and we talked about, and Jim mentioned how things happen in life and how some things just hit us to our core. They just hit us so deeply. And, some memories or experiences, they're just so much more than just thoughts. You would think that cognitive thoughts and memories would just live in our heads, but they don't. They live in our bodies. They live in our senses, and they bring up so many deep feelings and emotions. And you guys, we aren't robots, so we can't just, cognitively observe everything, right? And I'm a meditator, right? Like I love to meditate. And one of the things in meditation that I'm learning to do is to observe myself and observe what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. And then you get to kind of decide, how do you take these thoughts captive and how do you throw off what you don't want and how do you receive what you want? But you guys, we aren't robots, so we can't just observe everything. We feel everything. And you guys, especially us sensitive ones, like we literally feel everything. I mean, I not only feel my stuff, I feel your stuff. Like every thought has an emotion or a feeling attached to it. Now, the goal is to not be so controlled by it, but man, it's hard when you feel these things so deeply to your core, especially when we're sideswiped by life or by people in our lives or events in our lives. It can just be so upending and uncomfortable, like that car crash, that video. And I'll put a link to the video in the show notes so you can watch the video if you want to. But, thankfully, everybody was safe after that car accident. But you guys, when all of us, as we're going along and then bam, what's the latest tire flying at you and sending you into the air as you're trying to find your balance again, right? Like there's so many issues that we could bring up, but things like, marriage issues. Maybe in your marriage, it's just not what you thought it would be. And it's not like the movies or the Hallmark shows. That's for sure, even in the best of marriages. Or maybe your kid comes home and tells you, hey, mom, hey, dad, I'm trans or I'm gay, and you had no idea and it just sideswipes you. Or what if you thought, you were getting a tax refund and your tax refund actually turns into a tax bill and all of a sudden, okay, well, there goes our family vacation plans this summer. Right? This stuff can be so upending, or maybe you're dealing with childhood or past memories or thoughts, and you just wonder, will I ever be free of those thoughts or that trauma or that drama that I lived through? Oh my gosh, or a medical thing. Medical things, sometimes they just come out of nowhere and, all of a sudden you get a mammogram or someone you love has a mammogram and there's a shadow that wasn't there last year, right? Like there's all of these things that can sideswipe us, big and small, like even the little things in life can really sideswipe us. And not to depress you, but you guys, this is real life. This is reality. Like, how do we learn to ride the waves and self-regulate in healthy ways so that we don't just check out and then medicate in unhealthy ways? And you all know we can all have some crazy, unhealthy medicators in our life. And I love this concept of self-regulate. Jim had shared it with me, over a decade ago about learning how to self-regulate, right? Like when things hit me and I boil over, it's like, okay, well, how do I settle myself down so that I can make a rational decision or make the next move in my life? Or when things, really bum me out, like how do I self-regulate enough to be able to pull myself out of that funk? And so I'm on this journey, right? This inner healing, purpose-filled, personal growth development with the Holy Spirit and with Jesus, helping me learn and grow so that I can self-regulate, so that I can become and be the best version of myself. And as I was thinking about this podcast episode, I was reminded of a book I read years ago by Carol Kent. It's called A New Kind of Normal. You guys, it's a phenomenal book. She's actually one of my dream guests I'd love to have on the podcast. She's phenomenal. And I read this book, maybe 8 or 9 years ago at a really pivotal, oh my gosh, I can talk, I swear, at a really important time in my life. Okay, I can't say that word for some reason. My son, Zach, side note, teases me because you guys know, I've talked about it on the podcast. I have a speech impediment, and which is crazy because I'm like, I speak for a living and I do public speaking, right? Like all this, but hilarious how what I thought was going to be my weakest point in life becomes one of the things that God has just created me to use. So anyways, but now my son, Zach, especially, he can hear it when it's coming on and he teases me and he just makes me laugh. And it's so funny. And I don't feel made fun of because I know he loves me so much, but it's hilarious. And it's interesting how much I've grown, because if someone were to tease me about this, even a decade ago, I would have crumbled. Like I would have just fallen apart. But now, even when friends tease me, or it doesn't bother me as much. Like it's hilarious. I actually quite enjoy it now. So anyways, it's just crazy how different things in our lives, as we learn to embrace these things about ourselves, we can actually begin to actually love these little parts of ourselves. So anyways, just a little caveat. If there's something about yourself that drives you crazy, man, God's not done trying to heal you in that area. And maybe somebody will tease you someday and you'll realize, oh my gosh, it doesn't affect me as much as it used to. Anyways, I digressed. This book, A New Kind of Normal by Carol Kent, literally was one of my favorite books years ago. I need to reread it, but it is phenomenal. And I won't give away the whole story. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But this book, she was a Bible teacher, her godly husband, godly family. They had a son. Long story short, the son went away to the Naval Academy and was defending his new bride and ended up killing her ex-husband, okay, in the state of Florida. So now he's spending life in prison, okay? And so I won't give away the whole book because it's really powerful, but Carol talks about this one story in there where she shares how, now Christmas morning, that was always her favorite time of the year. Now it's spent in line with other inmates' families going to go through a metal detector so she can go spend Christmas morning with her son in prison. So all that to say, she didn't plan this for her life. Her son definitely didn't plan this for his life either. Their life was sideswiped by life, let's be real. And she wrote a whole book about how do you embrace this new normal that you would have never chosen, but it's your new reality. It's very powerful. So if you find yourself in a situation that you would have never chosen, but you have no choice but to live through it now, I really recommend the book. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes so you can find it on Amazon or wherever books are sold. But in the book, one chapter is titled, When I Desperately Want Relief from an Unrelenting Reality, I Choose Perseverance. I just love that title. I love the whole concept because we're either going to become like really bitter and feel just like victims to our life the whole time, or we're going to learn how to persevere and how to learn to live in this new type of normal. And one of the quotes from the book that is so powerful, it's by Ken Geyer. Ken says, how do we get to the morning, to the sunshine, to the joy? There's only one way, by waiting for it. We can't hurry the dawn, no matter how anxiously we pace the floor or how impatiently we watch the clock. And so the question is not, do we wait or not wait? Because waiting is all we can do. The question is, how will we wait? I love that quote. You guys, waiting and walking through hardship or heartache is never fun. But you guys, you're not alone no matter what heartache or hardship you're walking through. So this week, like I talked about in the Feel Better Journey groups, we talked about how we can't stop life from happening any more than we can stop the earth from spinning, right? So how do we self-regulate when we are sideswiped by life? We went in more details this in our group, but one of the concepts that I really wanted to mention to you guys, my podcast community, that I talk about all the time, and I've talked about it on the podcast, and it's a recovery term that they use a lot in recovery rooms because people are always asking, like, what do I do next? Or what should I do? And the phrase, the mantra, when you're struggling to live by is do the next right thing. It's like this framework. It's the scaffolding, so to speak, right? So do the next right thing is a framework to being productive, even in your suffering and your grief and your heartache. For instance, drinking for me would not be the next right thing, being that I'm in recovery and that, I really should never have a drink the rest of my life. So like when I'm struggling, I know I've got this framework set up of what my go-to things are that I do to help pull me up and to help regulate my emotions and my thoughts to get going in the right direction again, right? So we're supposed to do the next right thing, right? Like, so for me, cleaning my kitchen is one of my do the next right thing tasks. Calling a client is one of my do the next right thing tasks. Reaching out to a friend or making a healthy meal or going on a walk or sitting down and just writing a prayer. Like those are all do the next right things for me, you guys. But like eating 2 cartons of ice cream is not so productive or healthy for me. Ranting and venting on my husband or my kids, it's not quite the next right thing for me. You guys, do the next right thing it's a framework to help us keep the wheels on the tracks when we're struggling. And so I'd encourage each of you, man, write a list. It's something that we go through in the groups. If you want to join the Feel Better Journey, we'll go through it extensively. But one of the things that I encourage people to do is to write a list, have like 10 things that are in your back pocket. So when you are struggling or you are sideswiped, you can just grab from that list. So it gets you back into a livable space in your heart and your mind. It's just a great tool in the tool belt, so to speak, to use to help self-regulate, especially when we're hit by life. So this was just a short little episode. I wanted to encourage you. I wanted you to know that you're not alone if you're feeling like, man, things just keep upending you, or there's just little things that just keep hitting you, and you're having a hard time regulating your emotions and your thoughts, and you want to live in all the joy and all the hope and all the peace and all the purpose, but it's like, there's so much grief and sadness and heartache too. And you guys, I'm not saying there's like one perfect path in all of this, but I do know that Jesus wants to meet us in the midst of our heartache, in the midst of our suffering. I know that you're not suffering because he's punishing you. That is not how my Jesus rolls. I mean, he is just not a punitive, punishing God. He loves you and he adores you and he wants to walk you through it. And so anyways, I just wanted to send some love. I feel like there's a little bit of tension in the air in the world still going on. And I know in my own life, there's just some yucca. There's just some yuckiness. So, but there's good things too. And so cling to those good things, cling to those encouraging people, cling to those encouraging podcasts and music and all the tools that you can put in your tool belt to nourish your heart and your mind and let you know that you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not losing your mind like the world is on fire. And just to quote Ken Geyer again. And so the question is not, do we wait or not wait? Because waiting is all we can do. The question is, how will we wait? And so in the waiting, I want to just encourage you, put some tools in your tool belt, make a list of a few things that you know you can just go to, reach out to a friend, text someone an encouraging message. I mean, it really helps us when we get out of our own stuff and head of what's going on and reach out to bless someone else too. So that's just another little tool or tip. So I love you guys. I'll put a link in the show notes to that book, A New Kind of Normal, if you want to read it by Carol Kent. It's really powerful. So let me say a quick prayer for you, and I will be in touch in a few days. Also, it's not too late to jump on the wait list for the next round of the Feel Better Journey group coaching experience that will be launching soon. We're going to announce dates coming up here pretty soon. We have a week and a half left in these groups. And so please pray for our people. Please pray for what's next for them on their own healing journey. And so I'm just so grateful for this podcast community. I love you guys. And Lord Jesus, I love you. Lord, thank you that you love us. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your mercy. God, thank you that you are with us in the midst of when things sideswipe us. Anything that they're wrestling through, Lord, I just pray that you'd bring peace to their hearts and to their minds. Lord, would you bless them? Would you fill them and would you protect them today? In Jesus' mighty name, amen. All right, love you guys. We'll be in touch in a couple of days. Hello, my friend. If this episode blessed you, made you laugh, or triggered you, hey, that's growth. Please do me a favor and share this with a friend. And if you feel led, please leave a written review for the show. That really helps us out. Don't forget you are in good company if you're feeling more broken than you'd like to admit. And you are more loved than you can ever imagine. Have a great week. See you next time.